Bad words and taboo terms. This video is about taboo words. In it, I utter taboo words, sometimes highly sensitive taboo words. For why I choose to utter the taboo words discussed, even the highly sensitive words, click the link in the description below.
Swearing and Intentions, Part 2. In this video, we'll be looking at and discussing clips, all of which pertain to the use of the word nigger. And we'll be looking at these in order to get at the three aspects of speech acts. The three aspects, again, are locution, what was actually said, the mental grammar aspects of that, the conventions of a speech community that go into a speech act. Then there's the locution, the manifest intentions of the speaker, and then there's the perlocution, the reaction of the recipients. In the first clip, we're going to be looking at a short bit by Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce was a comedian from the 1960s. He was especially interested in language, and his routines were often more monologues than joke after joke. He would just kind of talk for a while, and he had a kind of funny take on the world. In this particular one, he's talking about the use of the word nigger.
The point, if President Kennedy got on television every day and said, I would like to introduce all the niggers in my cabinet, and all the niggers called each other niggers, they oftentimes stood in front of the old phase, and every day you heard nigger, 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 nigger. In the second month, nigger would mean as much as good night or God bless you in your sneeze, or perhaps as much as I promise to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Nigger would lose its impact, and it'd never make any 4-year-old nigger cry when he came home from school.
So what Bruce is getting at is changing the conventions of the word, of changing the social meaning of it, taking away its tabooness. And to some degree, he's right. We do see that over time, if a word gets used over and over again, it does lose its tabooness. And we also have seen groups making a concerted effort to sap words of their power to insult. So the LGBTQ plus community has done that with words like gay, queer, and dyke to some degree. However, where I take objection to what Bruce is saying is this idea that it can be done unilaterally by a white comedian. It needs to be done by a larger community. It can't be done by a single person. And I don't want to say that's what Bruce was claiming, but that's often the way that he's been understood. In the next clip, we're going to be looking at a routine by George Carlin. George Carlin was a protege of Lenny Bruce, who took the idea that we saw in that previous clip and takes it a little bit further.
People talking about bad words and bad language. Bullshit! It's the context that makes them good or bad. The context that makes them good or bad. For instance, you take the word nigger. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the word nigger in and of itself. It's the racist asshole who's using it that you ought to be concerned about. We don't care when Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy say it. Why? Because we know they're not racist. They're niggers.
As much as I like and admire George Carlin, I think he was off base on this one. He was focusing on intentions, that is, on the elocution. And intentions are highly important, but they're not everything. He was overlooking the conventions that surround the word itself. The fact that society has decided, as a society, as a speech community, that certain words like nigger are off limits for certain people. The other thing I think he was overlooking is the reaction, the perlocution associated with the recipient. That if a person takes offense at it, it doesn't matter if you say my intentions were pure, they took offense. Okay? And that's where I think he was off base. We'll see this more in the next one, where Richard Pryor seems to be directly addressing George Carlin, or perhaps indirectly. addressing George Carlin.
And I don't want them hip white people coming at me calling me no nigger or telling me nigger jokes. I don't like it.
All right, in the next two clips, we're going to be looking at some famous white people who used the word nigger, and in this case, in contrast to what Carlin was saying, the intentions clearly are not good. In the first clip, we have Michael Richards, who played Kramer on Seinfeld, doing a stand-up routine. He was heckled, and he starts shouting at one of the hecklers and calling him a nigger. In the other clip, we have a phone conversation with Mel Gibson and his ex-girlfriend, in which Mel Gibson just kind of casually uses the word in a really derogatory way. We'll view the clips, and then we'll talk about the perlocutions that followed.
Rules out, he's a nigger! He's a nigger! He's a nigger!
Oh my God!
A nigger, Lucas, a nigger!
You look like a fucking bitch on heat, and if you get raped by a pack of niggers, it'll be your fault.
So, in the wake of those two instances, both actors have experienced, basically those events have shaped their careers since. Richards has been, whenever he makes a public appearance, it seems he feels the need to apologize for that event. Gibson as well got a lot of heat for what he said. He has tried to explain that he was raised in a racist atmosphere. Whatever, it has affected their careers. That is the perlocution. In this case, I think it's notable just how powerful that word nigger is in our society. That phone conversation with Mel Gibson is very long, and in the immediate news stories about the phone conversation, most of them focused on those few seconds when he says the word nigger, and not on the many, many instances where he called her a cunt. And moreover, a lot of people didn't even discuss the fact that when he does say nigger, he is blaming a hypothetical victim of a rape for her own rape. Now, this was pre-Me Too. Hopefully things have changed a bit. I think we have to understand that neither one of those things is acceptable. Neither saying that slur nigger, nor saying the slur cunt, nor blaming victims for being raped. This next clip is of Samuel Jackson trying to get a white journalist to say the word nigger. I'll talk about why I wanted you to watch this one afterwards.
There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the usage of the N-word in this movie, and
no, nobody, none. The word would be.
Oh, I don't want to say it.
Why not?
I don't like to say it.
Have you ever said it?
No, sir.
Try it.
I don't like to say it.
Try it.
Really? Seriously?
We're not going to have this conversation unless you say it. You want to move on to another question?
Okay. Awesome. I don't want to say it.
Come on.
All right, so the reason I wanted to play that clip is because of an issue that I've had to wrestle with in the lectures for this class, which is, do I say some of these words? I mean, I'm well aware that as a white person, I should not use the word nigger. But for exactly a reason that Jackson kind of humorously gets at, is that using these circumlocutions like the N-word seems a little coy to me when we want to actually talk about the word. And since this is a class about words, I have from the beginning decided that I would say the word whenever I talked about the word. I discussed this in more detail in another lecture about use versus mention. This next clip is of a high school teacher who used the word and got in a lot of trouble for it. And his argument in his defense was a locutionary argument. That is to say, he argued that he never actually used the word nigger. He used a different word, nigga.
And I just kind of was stunned a second. Well, then get away from the door, nigga. Yes, I use nigga. I've used it. I admit it. I put the H on it to emphasize it's nigga. That, you know, nigga this, nigga please, nigga, you know, can you lend a nigga a pencil?
Now, the teacher clearly isn't the first to make that argument that there are two separate words. I've heard this argument made by linguists who I respect, but I have to say, as a linguist, I'm not entirely convinced that there are two separate words. But regardless, we do have to understand that even if we grant that there is a different word, nigga, and that's the one that the teacher used, there are still conventions, social meaning, that make it taboo, highly taboo, for a white person to use it. In the next clip, we're going to be looking at Black people using it. It's a conversation between Oprah Winfrey and Jay-Z.
And in the magazine, we discussed the use of the N-word and why I feel, everybody knows that I feel that we shouldn't be, you know, singing the N-word. You obviously feel differently. And
a little bit.
A little bit. A little bit. And tell everybody why.
What we discussed is more of words. People give words power.
Yeah.
You know, and for our generation, what we did was we took the word and we took the power out of that word.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we turned a word that was very ugly and hurtful into a term of endearment. So, I mean, even when someone says it's still intention behind what you say.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much took the power out of the word. Because if we just start removing words from the dictionary, just make up another word the next day. So we don't address the problem. The problem is racism, right? That's really the problem.
So we disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I said is, I guess my generation's just going to have to die out. We're just going to have to all just be dead. And this morning I was saying, well, from the grave, I'll be go, Jay, I still disagree. And the reason,
you don't have to say that.
And the reason I feel that way, because my generation and generations before me, obviously, coming up through the civil rights movement, and I am where I am because there was a generation before me that fought for civil rights, and that word carries such a sense of hatred and degradation. And I always think about, when I hear the word, even when I'm at the concert and people are, you know, screaming it at your concert, I think about Black men who were lynched, and that's the last word they heard. And so that comes from my generation.
Right.
Okay. So, okay, we agree to disagree.
No, which is a strong point, understandable.
Okay. I disagree.
All right. I think I'm going to give the final word to Chris Rock.
Whenever the word nigger is spoken, it is always followed by the same question. Can white people say nigger? And the correct answer is not really.